Hello and a warm welcome back to our third presentation on MBB Research Defense and Security Conference today. We are happy to have with us the Swedish-based MilDef Group, potentially new to investors, also to German investors, as the company was founded back in 1997, but is only listed since 2021 on the Nasdaq Stockholm. I'm pretty sure we will learn more today from Olaf Engwald, MilDef's head of investor relations. A short housekeeping note. This presentation will last like 20 minutes, followed by a 10 minutes Q&A session, and we will record the presentation to make it available to interested investors on the Research Hub afterwards. Questions can be asked using the chat box down on the right-hand side of your screen. And without further ado, I'd like to hand over to you, Olaf. Nice to have you here, and the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Harald. Vielen Dank. My name is Olaf Engvall. I'm the head of investor relations with MilDef. And thank you, MWB Research, for having MilDef today at your important defense conference. And at the very beginning, apologies for not having our CEO, Daniel Ljunggren, presenting today. My lovely boss had to travel out on important business opportunities. So I'm here today to fly you over and through the MilDef universe in this presentation, which will be followed by Harald's questions. So MilDef, what is MilDef? Well, to begin with, we are one of the strong suppliers of ruggedized and tactical IT based out of Sweden. And we have never been as relevant before or as well positioned in the ramp up of European defense rearmament and digitalization. And what we do at MilDef is really we armor IT, we armor it. When and where the stakes are the highest, when IT infrastructure in defense and security must work, because it is the difference between one thing and the other, that's where MilDef comes into the picture. And I will take you through some of the historic landmarks of the MilDef journey. We are now on our journey in defense and security. We are shy of 30 years into our evolution as a provider of tactical IT solutions. Two founders out of the south of Sweden founded this company in 1997, well before there was a ramp up in defense budget, well before there was a need for more threshold effect or defense capabilities in the Nordic and European system. So they started something that was sort of out of fashion, but became in trend, so to speak, considering how budgets are going up these days. And history matters in this industry, in defense and security. This is a trust industry where reputation and brand and strength plays a role. If we fast forward MilDef to 2021, as Harald mentioned, we went public on the Stockholm Nasdaq small cap list. Actually, today we travel on the mid cap Nasdaq of Stockholm. And we used to be a small company on the stock exchange, and we still are a sort of mid-sized company, but we have 41,000 shareholders and about 450 employees in 10 countries. And if you look at the image upper right corner, you see the fortress. This is the state-of-the-art production, innovation, R&D, testing and assembly and HQ facility in Helsingborg, 1 hour drive north of Copenhagen, but in Sweden. And we have a lot of peculiar and interesting and valuable environments for testing and producing our fantastic technology. But to begin with, what is our domain? Well, this is our world. This is where MilDef make a difference and where we protect those that protects us. Products and services that enable digitalization when and where the stakes are the highest. We are heavy on land. We are vehicle-mounted IT infrastructure, digitalization, computing power, primarily to land-based vehicles. But we are in the air, in surveillance aircrafts, and we are a lot actually on the water and under the water, on warships, submarines, and other places where digitalization and computing power plays a big role when it's really everything at the stake. So MilDef's journey. Okay, so you understand we're based in Sweden and we have 10 countries where we live in. We've traveled out of the Swedish defense system and we traveled into the Nordics, traveled into the UK, North Europe, North America, and some other partner country sales, so to speak. And today you see the mix of the sales of the MilDef universe. Nordic is still 58%, Europe 27%, and North America 11%. However, this will change in 2025. Europe will be approximately 50% of MilDef sales, since we recently acquired a fantastic German defense technology company named Roda Computer GmbH. Friends of ours since 25 years down the road. And I will get back to Roda a little bit later. But we are now not only a leading provider with the biggest market share in the Nordics, but we are now in our niche, tactical IT and digitalization, a major player in the European fast-growing defense system. And just for those who really want to understand how we sell, the route to market, at the very top, you see the end users. We never sell a computer to a fisherman who wants a ruggedized laptop. We sell computers and IT systems and entire solutions into the armed forces. That is always the end customer. However, how do we do that? How do we reach that customer to give unsurpassed digitalization capabilities? Well, we do it either via the procurement organizations in the defense systems. These are some examples of the business to government organization, and that is approximately 50% of the MilDef sales. And we also travel together with our good friends in the defense systems like Saab, Kongsberg, BAE Systems, and other big brands, big names, of course, compared to MilDef. We are a sub-supplier to those systems. So we have traveled the value chain. In the very early days, 30 years ago, we sold via partners and the tier 1 and 2 integrators. Now we've climbed up to the procurement organizations, and we also sell more directly to the end user. This is the MilDef journey, where we also learn how to improve our margins and become even more relevant and well-positioned in time, space, and offering for our customers. So what is it that we do? Well, you have understood that we are in IT infrastructure, we are computing power, we are digitalization. The real difference between one thing and the other when the stakes are the highest. So we manufacture, invent, R&D, and test unique ruggedized IT equipment, computers, switches, servers, routers, displays, keyboards, system of systems in a vehicle. 70% of the MilDef business comes out of hardware sales. It used to be 100% when MilDef was a young teenager. However, we have climbed the value chain, and we are now climbing around submarines, battleships, tanks, and installing our lovely systems to our customers and hand over a key that give them the opportunity to go run their vehicle. 25% of our sales is solutions where we do this, or we could, as in the picture, construct and innovate and develop and build and test a pilot station for unmanned vehicles, for instance. 5% of the MilDef business is software sales. This is not the application software. This is a deployment software for increased interoperability and connectivity, for instance, between NATO countries. 70% hardware, 25% solutions, 5% software. And this is not your average Home Depot computing system that you have in your office. This is an image of system of systems, where we provide, for instance, a battle vehicle with power, converters, video extenders, switches, computers, peripherals like keyboards, servers, and mounting solutions. The key ready-to-go solution for unsurpassed digitalization and computing power, where hardware and software make all the difference between, as I said before, one thing and the other. So MilDef is vehicle-mounted equipment primarily, and that is really our core of the business. But everybody asks us, what is the future of digitalization and computing power in defense and security? Well, as I'm sure all of you know, it is also the dismounted soldier, meaning that the individual lady or gentleman in green are digitalized to an unsurpassed capability of computing power for surveillance, drone control, and connectivity with their brigade, with their group, with their platoon. So this is the next level of the MilDef journey, and this is just starting. It has not really been out there yet for much long. We've seen this in the movies for many, many years, James Bond style, but it is not there yet. But we have the offer, it's complete, and the customers are now asking for it. So that is apart from the cybersecurity importance, apart from the UAV and drone controlling, which MilDef also does a lot in our innovation. And it is worth actually to just take a step back. 100% of the R&D is paid by the client. 100% of the R&D is paid by the customer. We keep all the IP, the intellectual property, which means that we have a huge box of Lego pieces that we can reuse, and that is part of the scalability in the MilDef journey product-wise. Okay, I just have to take you after 10 minutes, we have 10 minutes to go. I have to take you through some of the numbers that matters. And I'm sure that most of you have already glanced at MilDef, so you know that we are a growth company. Highlights from Q1. Just go back a month in time and conclude the fact that the positive trend from 2024 continued in Q1. Demand continues to be strong across the MilDef product portfolio. And the Roda acquisition was successfully closed. And we are now in an intensive integration phase, of course, to marry these two companies with style and caution, because we have a fantastic brand. Actually, Roda is 37 years in the making, while MilDef is 27 years in the making. So it's a strong brand on the German market. We have strong growth in the European defense systems. Budgets are going through the roof, and our order backlog is really all-time high, and it's supporting further top-line growth this year. And the Q1 numbers, we're not going to go through all this, but you've seen it. Sales were up 46%. Order intake was up 88% and reached 404 million SEK in order intake in Q1. And EBITDA margins were a bit soft due to the currency rate FX effect. However, margins are coming up over the board, and you see that over the past 2 years. Unfortunately, free cash flow was weak or soft this quarter after 5 very positive and strong free cash flow quarters. It was due to the fact that we had very big deliveries at the very end of Q1 with payments due in Q2. But we always tell our friends out there, our 41,000 shareholders and all the analysts and all of you guys and girls, we always tell you to please zoom out. This is not a quarterly company. Of course, we disclose our numbers every quarter, and we should and we must. But you must zoom out and look at the MilDef journey over time, because this is a volatile industry due to the sometimes procurement organizations don't care about our quarterly reports. They place their order when they're ready. We're, so to speak, in their hands. But the MilDef growth journey has been, and this is before, as we say, the Ukraine funding, the Ukraine money that is now poured into the system, or the Swedish or German or Norwegian or Danish money, after the horrific war in Ukraine happening as we speak. That kind of money has not trickled down into the MilDef numbers just yet. This is, so to speak, on our own growth created in the MilDef journey, with geographical expansions and a lot of organic growth, and also some acquisitions. So please look at the MilDef longer journey. At least the last 12 months is a good number to look at. Order intake in Q1, we have about 2 billion SEK in our order book. Book-to-bill ratio, very healthy, going up to 1.53. So order intake is very, very strong. Order book is at all-time high. There are quite a few numbers at all-time high in the MilDef universe. And this is the only prognosis, and it's not a prognosis. This is what we disclose. Apart from the fact that the financial targets say that we shall grow 25% at least every year, and we should earn 15% EBITDA over time, which we're very close to doing. This is what we present, the backlog duration, where you can see how much money in bracket, the Roda, and in not bracket in 2025, you see the numbers. However, you can compare 24 to 25 on the right-hand side, and you will see that the the deliveries this year are going up significantly compared to last year. So a very strong order book, a very strong order intake, and we can now finally see a little longer in our crystal ball. We can see towards 27, 28. Some customers don't want all the lovely technology we've built until 2028, because that's when the tank is ready to be installed and driven. So we are in the hands of the pace of the procurement organizations also, and in the tier one customers. Gross margin is something to keep an eye on. It's hovering around 50% of the MilDef traditional software. Roda will take it down a little bit due to their business, but it's still a very strong gross margin that will, in the MilDef business, be around 50%. And it has jumped up to a new level, which is also very healthy for our margins. And as you can see, we have leveled up over the past few years in our ability to make a profit. We also changed the profitability target from EBITDA with a D to EBITDA from 10 to 15%. So we are making money, and we're showing you guys and girls that we can make a healthy business. And I just wanted to mention a few things about the Roda acquisitions when we have 4 minutes, 30 seconds to go. And as you've studied, perhaps the rationales are clear. We become no longer a Nordic European tactical IT and rugged player. We become a pan-European party in that sense, and we unlock a lot of market access to DACH, especially Germany, with the framework agreements with Bundeswehr, and we have a lot of synergies and cross-selling and purchasing, and it's a very strong team on site in Lichtenau and Hüllhorst in Germany. So we're very, very happy about this transformative acquisition, which was completed in March. And we bought this lovely company of good friends for 6 times EBITDA on 24 numbers. They grew 16% in 24, and they made 17% EBITDA. So it's a very strong brand in Germany. And integration projects ongoing, and this will increase our footprint dramatically, making MilDef almost twice the size in 2025. And just a few more words about where we are. This is the atmospheric pressure that MilDef lives in. And I'm sorry, it's a bit Nordic-oriented, this slideshow. But we know, all of us know, that the peace indexes are going down. We have in Sweden and the Nordic systems at least 25, 35 years of underspending. And we have budgets going through the ceiling, also in Europe. And we have Germany now, which will be the locomotive of threshold effect in Northern Europe and Central Europe, going towards 3.5% of GDP. Of course, that is a big opportunity for a company like MilDef going forward. And we have other things coming in. It's hard to keep track of this. It's almost changing on a weekly basis. Rearm Europe Resilient 2030, additional 800 billion euros. Swedish defense budgets go towards 3.5. And we add new budgets in Sweden, and we have a NATO summit in The Hague to define new defense spendings going forward. So this is the atmospheric pressure we're in. My last picture, or my second last picture, when I'm flying over so quickly, but I know that you're intelligent, so you will keep track. This is an important picture that we have had a lot of usage over the past few years, because at the start of the Ukraine war, everybody was asking, why is MilDef not taking off? Well, the thing is, we do not sell anything that says boom. We sell IT equipment, computing power, digitalization, threshold effect. But what happens in the first wave, so to speak, is operational effect after the horrible Ukraine war. That's when ammunition and fuel and drones and what you need at the first day of battle, that is when those suppliers provide a lot of material. Then 18 months later, 2 years later, the big platforms providers start getting business for new platforms. And a tank, a CV90, which is one of our lovely customers, BAE Systems, we fill it with intelligence and computing power. We fill the Archer, we fill the battle boats. We have many, many platforms where we play a vital role. That order comes in 2 years after the Ukraine war. And then MilDef comes into play with our digitalization and computing power. So we're late cyclical. We have not seen really the ramp up yet. We are growing healthily. We're making good money, and we have a good business, and we grow and we strengthen ourselves from within We're very motivated. We're very proud of what we're doing at MilDef as being a part of the European defense systems with friends like Rheinmetall and Saab and Kongsberg and others. We're very proud to be where we are, and we are very passionate about what we do. But we are late cyclical, and we are just very ready for the beginning of the beginning, which we anticipate is now. Final picture is exactly that. We at MilDef see now, and we're feeling the order intake is proving it, the order backlog is proving it, that we are somewhere in the beginning of the beginning. And we see market expectations being very strong for at least 10 years out. Then after that, we have no crystal ball. Of course, no one alive or no one operative has done this before, not us in the company. So this is new to many people. But one thing is sure, when the defense budgets grow crazy big, our part of the pie grows as well, because digitalization is so important, and data-driven defense systems and security systems is very important. So a lot of money going into European defense budgets, and our order backlog is supporting a healthy growth in 2025 and beyond. And then we have the fantastic acquisition of Roda Computer GmbH, which is now revving up as we've owned them for a little bit more than a month or two soon. So that is fantastic for 2025 and beyond. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is really the super quick flyover. Apologies for doing it a bit hastily, but as I said, I know that you are used to digesting a lot of information. Thank you for your interest in MilDef.
Olaf, thanks for the brief and really solid overview regarding MilDef. And as you can imagine, we've got quite a big number of questions already. I would like to start with the market development and also with the outlook. For how many years do you expect the Ukrainian money to fuel the market?
Well, we say that it's at least, since we have a big hole, we have donated so much material to Ukraine from Sweden and the Nordic and North European system. First, we have to fill that hole with well over several hundred tanks. I mean, only from the Nordic countries. When we've filled that hole, we can start building threshold effect. And Sweden needs to go from 1 to 4 brigades. It's going to take at least 5 years before we have leveled up to a threshold effect. And then that needs to be supported and reinforced and developed and serviced and repaired. So we say that we have at least 10 years out of that kind of money going into the system. It takes a lot of time. It needs to be done both quickly and responsibly. So that's the trick here, really. It's our tax money. We have to use it well. So 5 to 10 years at least.
A perfect question which really fits into this answer is, what are the key growth drivers for MilDef? You have mentioned the budgets growing, definitely, but particularly in regard with the international expansion. Where do you see further customers? Where's the potential for you to grow?
I mean, at the core of it is digitalization and computing power. I mean, if we believe that building a more secure Europe is based also, of course, on ladies and gentlemen in green and soldiers, but it's also built on increased digitalization, where hardware meets fantastic software for that leverage, for that unsurpassed capability. So apart from the budget, it's really the data-driven defense going forward, cybersecurity, drone controlling, and digitalization across the board, really. That's the main driver for MilDef.
Okay, got it. And in the regard of competition, how do you differentiate from larger global competitors? And a follow-up question also, who are the main competitors, and are there any German-based peers?
This is a very good question. I mean, ever since we started this company almost 30 years ago, when no one else was interested in doing what we were doing, because there were no budgets, no interest, it was not something that you wanted to work with. There were other things. We're alone in the Nordic system doing this. However, Saab Electronics, fantastic company, they can build what we build. Same thing with Rheinmetall. Same thing with Kongsberg and Saab. But they buy from us because we're super nerdy, focused, and geeky on what we do. We do this only. We do not build things that say boom, pointy planes, or big ships. we build digitalization supremacy. So we are focused, we're fast, we're agile, and we have this huge IP bank. Like I told you, 100% is paid by the customer in R&D. We keep all the IP. So we're super relevant, and we can be quick in delivering fantastic IT equipment.
Yeah. We'll get back to the IP discussion later on, but the first question is Secunet. Is it a competitor?
No. It's a big, fantastic customer in Germany.
Okay, it's a customer, because the question is that you have mentioned the German Bundeswehr as a customer. How would you describe the competition against Secunet and the products? So there is actually no direct competition.
I know that the Secunet is our largest customer in Germany next to Bundeswehr, but I'm sorry, apologies for this, Harald. I am not that well versed on the German market yet. We have just owned this company about a month. So I'm sorry, apologies for that. But I know that much, that Secunet is a lovely customer in Germany, our second largest.
Yeah, we will ask you in the next round table then. Getting back to the IP, how do you get customers to pay for something that belongs to you, the IP?
Well, they have no interest. Remember, we sell into the defense forces, and the big ones, they have zero interest in keeping the IP. And if they would keep the IP, we would soon run out of space to maneuver, because then, of course, we couldn't innovate stuff because it was someone else's IP. So it's also very important for us to keep it. And since day one, this has never been a problem, which sounds kind of fascinating. So we keep all the IP, and that's where the magic happens. That's how we can be quick in building, because this is all customized. We never build something that we put on a shelf, and we never build 10,000 units of something and say, let's hope we can sell them. It's never like that. Everything we sell is sold and used. So it's always super relevant, in the forefront of technological evolution.
Yeah, but there's no fear at the customer side that the IP could be used somewhere against them. I mean, you can use the same IP technology and to transfer it to somebody who maybe is one day an enemy.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, there are two answers to this question. We are very diligent in to whom we sell. We sell primarily or only to Nordics, Northern Europe. We do not sell to all NATO countries even. We have a very sharp ethical compass, where we feel it's our obligation to decide to whom we sell, and to be sure that our stuff never ends up in the wrong hands. So we sell into chosen NATO friends, so to speak. That's one way of assuring this.
Okay, got it. Some financial questions. Do you have a recurring revenue from hardware sales, like servicing? And how big is it?
Very good question. I cannot say exactly, actually, because things are moving so fast, but we treat all the hardware sales as new sales. However, a battle tank or a battle vehicle or a boat has a lifespan of 30, 40 years. Every 5 to 6 to 7 years, they change the computing power. So that's really the aftermarket. That's the reoccurring business, Harald. When we go back to the platform and install new AI compatibility hardware, or much stronger servers and drivers and computing power. So the recurring business is the old platforms, midlife upgrades. Approximately, guesstimate, 50% of our sales is midlife upgrades. But these days, so much new material is built, so it will be, guesstimate, 50-50 going forward.
Is there any chance to increase this portion?
We're in the hands. I mean, the midlife upgrades, the stickiness is high. Once you've designed in MilDef's technology in a battle tank or a boat or submarine, they want to go back, because it's just, click, plug and play, connect and go. But it depends on how quick the new material will roll out. And that's where we're in the hands of the procurement organizations and the defense systems, the nations. How quickly are we able to get 500 new tanks, for instance, in Germany? I mean, it doesn't take 6 months. It's not like ordering a Mercedes. It's not 6 months out. It's several years. And it's not until that tank is close to being finished that we come into the picture. So we are again late cyclical in that linear phase, so to speak. So we're in the hands of how quickly the vehicle programs will scale.
I see, I see. You've mentioned tanks and the boats. Maybe a more general question, how long does the hardware typically last before it needs to be replaced? Also, in light of updated technology.
Well, I think 5 to 6 years is what I hear. That's it's like our civilian life. We change IT equipment every 3, 4, 5 years, and it's about the same length in these platforms. If the platform is not being destroyed, of course.
Of course. And a last question so far, a quite intelligent question, I would say. Can you break down your growth between more tanks are needed and more IT per tank is needed?
Oh, that's a very good question. I'm sorry I can't. What I can say is that a vehicle today is like, and I shouldn't use this example because there are better cars in Germany, but it's like a modern Tesla. A tank is so packed with computing power these days, and we take a bigger portion of this as we move along. For almost every month as is passed, we take a bigger chunk of the digitalization in the tank, for instance, or the vehicle or the boat. But it's a good question. I don't have a clear answer on that.
No, no problem. We will.
But 2 million SEK is a guiding sort of, 2 million SEK in each vehicle out of MilDef computing power. About 2 million SEK kroners.
Okay, good to know. Olaf, also this answer can be then, we will address it again in the next roundtable with you. So be prepared. We are at the end of the time and we are at the end of a question. So for me, it's just the time to say thank you for participating. We are going in in a short lunch break for now it's less than 1 hour, and at 1:30 we continue with Steyr Motors. So we'll be happy to see you there again. Olaf, for some final marks. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Harald. Thank you so much for having us. Stay safe.
Stay safe.